All right, so I wanted to record like a shorter demo showing you kind of the workflow that would be probably the easiest to start a repo and also deploy on the Netlify website. So the first thing that we would do is we would go to GitHub. You could type it in here and search for it, but I usually have it on my recent stuff. So we go to our GitHub, we click new repository, and so I'm gonna name this test repo 7 because I think the last one I had was 6. Okay. You can write a description if you want. Always make sure it's public, especially for assignments, so we can be able to view it because if it's private, we won't be able to. We don't need a template. We could add a README. Right now, we don't need git ignore or a license, so we will just click on create repository. And so now we have our repository. Here's the name of it. We have it right here. We just have a README in here, and we don't have anything in our README at the moment. So once you created your repo, you could go to VS Code. Usually with this welcome message, we could go to clone repository. I wonder if I'm trying to see if the welcome message did not pop up, if there's another way to find it, but I don't see it. Okay, so we'll go to clone git repository. And so once you click that, this will pop up. You could clone from GitHub. So we'll click that, and then it'll give us a list of all of the repositories that we have. So in this case, we're going to use test repo 7 because that was the one we just did. And then we're going to select where we want our repository to be. In my case, I have it in documents, I have codecs, and then codecs TA is where mine are. And so then once you get into that folder, you would select that, and then the dialog will pop up and we want to open. All right, and so as of now, we don't have anything in our repository, but it's up here. So the first thing we usually do is create a file, index.html, and then what? Okay. And then to do the boilerplate, it's Shift 1. So the exclamation point, you would select the first one, and it kind of gives you just the boilerplate of what, it has the doc type and the HTML and the head and the body. So it already has this set up for you. So usually the first thing I do is I'll go to Bootstrap, and if you type in git bootstrap, like in here, you can get bootstrap, and it'll bring you to this page right here. And so we scroll down to the CDN and we get these links. So we're going to copy both of them and put them in the head of our HTML file. And I'll just press enter so I can put the script file. And so we'll copy the script one. And then we'll paste that in there. So now we can use Bootstrap, and Bootstrap is a framework for CSS. You could use classes to kind of style your web page with Bootstrap classes. The next thing you would want to do is go to the docs on Bootstrap, and you can kind of search for what you want. For an example, if you wanted to do like a nav bar, You can see all the different navigation bars. Like this one has a search box and a drop down menu and a bunch of links. It's kind of a lot. And then you would just, this is really basic right here. This one has like a logo on it. It's just different things that you could use. So the next thing we could do is just start coding. So we could do an H1 test web page. And so let me snooze the Copilot. So also, if you have Live Server installed, usually what you could do is right click on the file and go open in Live Server. And so we see we have test web page, that's the H1. What else can we do? I think for the assignment from the other day, the practice, it was the student progress checker, where we have inputs for a student name, grade 1, grade 2, grade 3. So what I would do is they have forms on Bootstrap that we could use. Form control. And we don't need this text area like this box, but you may like in the future. So what I do is I usually just copy the label and inputs and kind of, he groups them in these divs. So the label and input would go inside a div. So we would just group those together because the label goes with this input. And we would just change the content of it. So student name. And then we would change the for student name. And the for and the ID, and the for and the label and the ID and the input need to match. That way the browser knows that those two go together. Student name. And then we want to change the type to text. Because if we have it set at email, it auto validates and it automatically looks for an @ symbol and a .com. We could delete this placeholder. And so this class form label is an example of Bootstrap classes. And this form control is also Bootstrap. So if we go to our live server, we see that our input is the whole width of the page, which is how Bootstrap's default is. So what we could do is wrap everything in a div. And then we could use a class, like a Bootstrap class, and W for width, and then it goes by percentages. So we could do like 50 to be like half the screen. And so now our input is half of the screen instead. And so then when we add more inputs to our form, we'll keep it inside this div. So you could probably just copy and paste And I usually like have spaces so you kind of see that this is a group and then this is its own group. And then for the assignment, we need 3 more inputs. So it would be grade 1, grade 2, grade 3. Oops, what did that happen? Grade 1, and then we'll change the ID to grade 1. And then we'll change this to grade 1. Alright, or we could write enter grade 1. Okay. And I have auto save on mine. If you go to file and go to auto save, it automatically saves, so you don't have to like continuously save it. So now we have the student name input and the grade input. I'm not going to go through the whole thing because I did make another demo making the whole assignment, but I'm just kind of showing you a demo of like the workflow. And so we also need a button. And we can do get average. And let's see, we could do Bootstrap also has classes for buttons. If you go to Bootstrap and search for buttons, they'll show you. But the syntax for it is btn, and then if you want to give it its own color, we would do btn again dash, we'll give it danger. Danger would be red. And then go back, and so we have our get average button right here. Okay. So after we've put in our inputs and everything, we would need a script file. So we would add, I'm going to show you how to connect your JavaScript file to your HTML. So script.js, it could be app.js as long as the extension is .js. It's up to your preference. It depends on if how you can, sometimes if you have multiple pages, you want a different script file for different pages, so you would probably name it the name of that page, but in this case we'll just go with script. So the script file, the way we link our script, our JS to our HTML is we use the script tag, and we use the source attribute, the src attribute, equals, and then it has to match the file name exactly. So now our script file is connected to our JS. So the first thing I do to make sure that it's connected is I do a console log, and then hello from script.js. So in this way, when we go live, this will log in the console in our inspect tool. So if we right click inspect and we go to the console, we see that it's logged. So now we know that our JavaScript is linked to our HTML. Okay. So the next thing I want to show you is the workflow of committing. So since we already created our repo, we cloned it to VS Code, now we want to add it to GitHub and push our changes. So the first thing is git add space period. That'll add all of our files, and now you see how our files have the A for added. We initialized the repo with a README, so that one is already on GitHub. So that's why that one hasn't changed. So the only files that we added was the index.html and our script. So the next thing is git commit added HTML and script. Alright, and then we want to git push origin main. Alright, and so we didn't get any errors, then everything should be on GitHub now. If we refresh, okay, so now we have our HTML that we just did. And our script, and the only thing in our script so far is this console log. But I just kind of wanted to show you the workflow of that. With the Netlify, you could go into Netlify. Oh, I'm already logged in. So when you go to Netlify, I think right here it's sign up or log in, but I think you've already signed up with it. So once you log in, you could go to add new project, import an existing, click on GitHub. Usually I have to search. So test repo 7. There we go. Project name. Test repo. Why don't you let me type? Okay. And if you don't give it a name right here, it kind of names it whatever. It's like usually like weird names. So then we just name it, and then all we have to do is click this deploy test repo. And then up here it says project deploying in progress. And so once it turns green, it has the name that we named and then the netlify.apps. So that's going to be the URL that you would share, is this right here. And so we see we have our web page that we just did, and it is deployed on Netlify. So it's kind of like GitHub Pages, but you host your web page through a different website is what it is. All right, so I think that is it for this demo. All right.